Hello and welcome to B2B Revenue Leaders. I'm your host, Dustin. As always, this episode is brought to you by Testimonial Hero. When you say it, it's marketing. When your customers say it, it's social proof. Testimonial Hero helps you scale your testimonial and case study program so you can close trust gaps with your buyers and close more revenue. On this episode, I'm joined by Sam Dunning, who is the founder at Breaking B2B, and we're talking about the importance of SEO for B2B SaaS businesses. We also go into why going for organic blog traffic probably doesn't impact your revenue, and we discuss whether backlinks still matter. Hey, Sam, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dustin. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, it's good to connect again. I was on your podcast, probably 2 years ago now, so glad to have you on here, and this time we're going to talk about stuff that a whole lot better than me, which is on the SEO side, especially for B2B SaaS businesses.
Yeah, man. Looking forward to the chat. Looking forward to getting stuck in and hopefully share some practical ideas and tips.
Exactly. Yeah, so let's dive in. That people, even me, I hear SEO, and I remember growing up as a young marketer, you'd be measured on organic search to random blog pages with long tail keywords. And some people still think that, but I know you're more focused on actually having SEO drive revenue. So maybe let's talk through the difference there and how you actually measure the success of SEO.
Yeah. It's a good point. And I think SEO often gets given a bad rep, especially in B2B SaaS, as perhaps they've tried it a little bit in the past and didn't really get the results what they wanted. Perhaps they got some traffic that showed up in their analytics tool, but on the back end, it never actually converted into demo requests or booked sales calls and that side of things. Yeah, one thing we see is so often that B2B SaaS companies they might have a marketing team, they might have a small marketing team, and they almost look at SEO as a tick box exercise. As I so often find when it comes to the actual marketing budget, you've got things like outbound sales, events, you've probably got paid ads, you've probably got paid review sites, you've got some influencer marketing campaigns, paid search, and then right at the bottom of that budget barrel, scraping it, is usually SEO. That's what we find. It just gets neglected until SaaS companies just start seeing competitors constantly above them in organic search results and get to the point where they're so frustrated they think, yeah, we better tackle that. But like you alluded to, so often it's so easy to go wrong with SEO. So one of the big mistakes is what you touched on there, is that companies, either the founder themselves, if they're a small company, or perhaps they'll get the marketing team to say, let's finally do a bit of SEO. And then the marketer has 99 or 100 other jobs on their list of things to do, goes into a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush, maybe looks up for a few keywords relevant to their industry, their solution, or the offer. They're probably going to go for a high search volume one that's relatively easy difficulty. Maybe they then find that keyword that's relevant to their offer, chuck the keyword into ChatGPT to generate some content, fire up a template of content, and chuck that online on the blog resource section of their website, and then get back to the other 98 jobs that they've got to do for that week or that month. And then a few months go by and the founder or the revenue leader might say, how did the SEO activity go? And they'll be like, great, I produced this article. And they'll say, oh, great, how many leads did it drive? And they'll be like, didn't drive any leads because you didn't ask me to generate leads from it. You just asked me to do some SEO, quote unquote. Yeah, so many times where it's just not got that strategy. And the truth is, great SEO is sometimes gets overcomplicated, but doesn't have to be. A lot of it is just understanding what do your target clients, your focused customers, what do they search when they want to have a sales conversation around your offer. And usually in B2B SaaS especially, that's a number of things. So it might be that they're comparing you to alternative solutions in your market. So looking for competitor alternatives, or competitor A versus competitor B, or competitor pricing. So for example, if you're in the calendar scheduling space, that might be Chili Piper alternative, or Calendly versus Chili Piper, or Chili Piper pricing. So those are usually quick wins. Or another set is where you look directly for the offer. So if you take it back to calendar scheduling software, it might be best calendar scheduling software, or going directly for offer plus the niche you serve. So best calendar scheduling for sales teams, or for revenue teams, or for HR teams. So a lot of it with SEO comes back to basic buying principles. And I quite literally encourage most marketers or even founders to fire up a Google sheet, and list out what are the main industries that you serve, but not just anyone, the industries you serve that have the expensive problems you fix, are motivated to fix it, really want to solve that problem, but most importantly, have cash to solve that offer. List all of those down. Also list the main solutions or products that you actually want to be selling, whether that's calendar scheduling, whatever your main offer is. Do keywords around offer for industry, and then you can pump those through a tool like Ahrefs or SEMrush to see what keywords make sense. But also list out all your main competitors, so then you can start to build out alternative pages, which we can dive into in a sec, as that in SaaS traditionally, just like in most B2B sales, right? Folks usually compare 2, 3, 4 vendors with their exec team before they evaluate and make a decision. So if you can show up for those terms and share your points of differentiation in a really well thought out article or page, it can also be quite a quick win. So yeah, main thing is getting back to basics and really working out what do folks search when they have high intent to speak to a salesperson around your offer, and really exhausting that bottom of the funnel, all those keywords that make sense there before you even consider going up the funnel to how-to blogs or that kind of stuff. That's like the step one before we look at building out content.
Yeah, it's interesting too, because I think most people just do that in reverse, or at least what I've seen is they start with, let's see if I can get 200,000 views on my blog. But you're right, it is those really bottom of funnel ones where you maybe get 500 views a year, but you get 8 leads, right? Because it's so high intent. The thing I've struggled with a lot of times is, I think partly is I don't know how to get those to rank as well, because it's harder. It's the short of it, or at least to someone who's not as experienced with SEO.
Sure.
Because you're competing potentially against the Capterras and G2s of the world, depending on what you're going after. So maybe how do you think through that of finding the keywords that you actually have a good shot at that are bottom of funnel, or do you just go for them all?
Yeah, and this is going to come down to resource, right? Depending on whether you're going to be writing the content yourself, maybe you've got a small content team in-house, or maybe you work with an outsider team or contractor, depending on what's realistic for you to pump out. But where a lot of teams get almost, I don't want to say wrong, but cut themselves short, is they don't publish enough content. So I'm a big fan of publish first, optimize later, rather than getting yourself stuck on things like technical SEO, which we can dive into in a sec. The principle of it is, yes, you can use tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs, and you can determine the keyword difficulty of a keyword. So let's say we've made our list down on our Google sheet of all the main offers we want to sell and all the main industries we want to serve. So that might be calendar scheduling for revenue teams, calendar scheduling for HR, calendar scheduling for recruitment, whatever. So we'd maybe find one that was low keyword difficulty. We'd chuck that. We'd quite literally do a search on Google, see what the top 2, top 3 organic non-paid results are. They're probably going to be what we call listicles. So it's probably going to be like, they'll either be one of two things. There'll be like a product listicle where it says like top 10 tools to consider for your HR calendar scheduling, or it might just be a landing page. So first you've got to address the intent of the page. What type of content ranks well on Google for that keyword? Okay, it's a listicle, it's a comparison. Okay, it's a landing page. Okay, it's something else. So now we know what type of content we need to build out. The basic things are with technical SEO, like I said, a lot of companies get stuck on technical SEO, but in my opinion, until you're at 1,000 or so pages, you don't need to worry too much about messing around with it for ages. As long as your URL has got your main keyword in, so yourdomain.com / maybe calendar -scheduling- for revenue teams, whatever makes sense for that target keyword. Your H1, your heading tags got it within there. You only want one H1 per page. Your meta title and your meta description, which is the little listing that shows up in the organic search results. As long as those include your main keyword and you weave it in your body copy, you can't go far wrong. But in terms of actually building out a page that ranks, so what I usually do is quite straightforward. Just look at the top 1, 2, 3 organic pages and then make notes. How are they structured? Okay, maybe it is a comparison listicle. Maybe they've got, 7 options. What they'll typically do on a comparison listicle is they'll put their number 1 as themselves and say, look, this is how great we are, book a demo. And then this is our other competitors, the 6 others. So there's 2 ways you want to look at it. One, you want to think of those kind of pages as a place to show your points of differentiation, why someone should consider choosing you. And then secondly, you want to produce content that completely blows that page out of the water. So if it was me, I'd aim to do like a top 20 comparison, just something that's far more detailed and exhaustive. And at the same time, at the top of the article, if it was a product comparison page, I'd probably say something like, these are the things you should consider before even looking at a vendor in our space. Then moving on to positioning us. Yes, position yourself as number one, but talk about why folks choose you. Like, this is the problem people normally come to us to fix. This is why we're a bit different. Here's maybe a comparison chart of where we stack up against our top competitor. Here's a bit of social proof. Here's a recent client review video of why they chose us as opposed to a competitor. And now, if you're ready, schedule some time with sales and then put the remainders underneath. So a lot of it is making notes on what's ranking well, looking for gaps in the current strategy, the current pages that are ranking, and then look for ways that you can one up those in all shapes and forms, really. And that would vary depending on the type of page, the type of content, and what users expect to see.
Yeah, the interesting thing though, like you said, is the scale and resources side, because that takes a lot of work and the results are worth it. But a lot of people just, like you said, they won't do that. They'll plug it into ChatGPT or some other tool and just spit something out. I like the point though on the technical side, because it's almost like a point of parity. Any of those top ranking sites, I think, will have that technical stuff pretty much locked in. So it goes back to creating good content. So I'm curious then, like, how is someone who wants to outrank and outperform and create better content, how, if at all, are you using AI? Or is your advantage that you're just not using it and focusing on the human side?
Yeah, we don't use it a ton, really. If we're doing, because we work with a bunch of kind of B2B SaaS, bunch of tech companies, usually we do that process that we just shared there, so understand what are their quote unquote money keywords, what are those kind of main offers, main solutions, main services they really want to drive sales calls around or demos. And then in terms of producing content, you can use this. There's plenty of AI tools, right? Where you can, if you're going to use them, I'd encourage you to use them more as the foundation or the framework piece, i.e. maybe they help you with a rough guide or outline for a blog article or an outline for a landing page, where they produce like the H1, H2, H3 heading tags. They maybe help you with the title and description of the page and give you maybe some bullets to weave in throughout. But where you're really gonna, if you're perhaps a smaller fish in a big pond, like there's some massive competitors against you, your advantage is the fact that you don't have red tape. So theoretically, you should be able to publish content quicker, whether that is yourself, a freelancer, a contractor, a team, because huge companies in your sector, and most SaaS companies will have big, giant competitors, they've got to go through so many approval processes. Like, just to publish a page, they've got to go back and forth to get the content signed off. Then they've got to go through the UI design team to get it signed off, then the web dev team, and then maybe a month later, you've published a page. Whereas if you're a startup, you can do that process, build best-in-class content by reviewing what's ranking now and look for gaps to one-up it, and then publish it, and then worry about optimizing it after you see how well it ranks, maybe add to it. But in terms of actually creating the content itself, yeah, use AI if you want a basic framework. But then where you're going to win is following Google's framework called EEAT, so experience, expertise, authority, trust. Ideally, you want someone with hands-on experience on whether you're writing a landing page or whether you're doing a product listicle, someone who knows their stuff on the topic, so you can pull insights from them, whether that is talking about an expensive problem you fix, the impact of not fixing it, why they should consider you, how you're different. Maybe if it's a landing page, you've got perhaps an FAQ section at the bottom of the landing page that addresses real customer problems and pain points and questions that they raise on sales calls. So, for example, on the Breaking B2B site, on our landing pages for B2B SEO and SaaS SEO, on those landing pages, we've got an FAQ section with questions like, why are you guys so expensive? How do you stack up to your main competitors? Do I get an account manager? How long does it take to see results from SEO? Basically, addressing questions that a lot of companies would be, frankly, too frightened to address. But it makes good searchable content, and it also builds transparency and gives your sales team like enablement content. So these pages they can actually share with customers, and they're actually going to be useful rather than just giving generic content that no one really cares about. So that's a few ideas.
Yeah, the objection handling one's interesting. Just as a parallel, we do videos for our clients focused on objection handling, and we use them internally. And anecdotally, as a sales enablement tool, they work so good because we're pointing out our flaws. It's almost like you're in the UK, so I don't know if this would be as relevant, but like at the end of 8 Mile, where Eminem just like talks bad about himself and says all this stuff and gets it out of the way. It's like this objection handling thing. And there's two things I want to dive into. One of them, because I think it's really practical, which is the alternative pages, because I've created really shitty alternative pages in the past that didn't work. And I think there's probably a better way to do it. But the other one I want to ask your opinion about is just the concept of backlinks and how important they are or are not. And I'm asking this from the point of view of someone who gets 15 emails a day for someone trying to sell me backlinks. So yeah, I would love your thoughts there first.
Yeah, I recognize those problems. So let's start with the backlinks. So backlinks are a funny one, and it came out in one of the Google leaks a while ago. Google have been saying for years on platforms like X, Twitter, that links aren't really that important. And then in the leak data, it pretty much said they are, and they are a trust signal. But SEOs have known that for years. So backlinks, not so important for kind of content that's not that competitive, i.e. maybe there's a keyword you're going after that's perhaps low traffic, low search volume, doesn't have a ton of competitors going after. Quite often you can rank those pages with little to no backlinks. But when you go after more juicy terms, so for example, if we go back to our calendar scheduling example, if you went very specific within a niche, i.e. calendar scheduling software for, I don't know, recruitment companies, something niche like that, might be able to rank without any links. It's quite specific. Whereas if you went best calendar scheduling software, you're going to need links to outrank folks like Calendly and Chili Piper. Like, you've got no chance. So some quick wins to build some decent backlinks is, one of my favorites is through partnerships. So basically make a list of top customers, top partners, top clients, and similar within your ecosystem that go after similar clients, have a similar ideal client profile to you, but are not direct competitors. And then to them, offer to create some content. So it could be a podcast, it could be a little mini video series. It could be you just offer to create a useful article that's relevant to their audience on their site, whatever way you want to propose it. I usually just encourage a painfully short message to one of those folks on LinkedIn. Like, for example, we did similar with Justin Rowe at Impactable LinkedIn Ads Agency. They do LinkedIn ads, but they don't do SEO. And I just said, Justin, like, got a weird idea to scale our organic traffic and get us both some leads. Are you against a conversation? I'll just send something like that opens the curiosity gap, and he's thinking, what the hell is Sam on about? And then, yeah, essentially just suggest whatever way you win. If you don't know them well, you might offer to create them with content, and that might look in the form of an article that's useful to their audience. Within that article, perhaps towards the end, you'd put some anchor text to one of your target keywords and then put a do follow backlink within there. So you basically say, I'll give you some useful content that's going to rank on Google. I'll build it all so there's no hassle or stress on your side. And in return, chuck us a backlink. That's one of my favorite plays. Another easy one is pretty much what we're doing now, is guesting on podcasts or leveraging past media. If your CEO, if your founder, if one of your exec team has done a lot of past media, and that might not be podcasts, that might be they're featured in press, in articles and PR. Usually those folks just give you a random link, but you might be able to reach back out to them and say, look, can you tweak that link to one of our target keywords and pages? Or you can just strategically guest on podcasts within your niche. You can go on a website like Chartable or Listen Notes, and you can quite literally search for your sector and then search within that sector. So let's say we're marketing, but you might be HR. Within that sector, the podcast that accept guests. And again, drop them a short message on LinkedIn or whatever channel they're on, and then look to guests on their shows. And then after doing a useful recording with them, you can ask them for a link. That's another good way to build brand at the same time, get some SEO value.
Yeah, I'm sensing a theme here that the short of it is be strategic and don't cheap out when it comes to SEO. And I think that's a good comparison on the backlink side. That's strategic thought of who can I actually partner with? Who can I provide value to? Versus backlinks almost get a bad rap because, like, cold outbound, because all of us are getting inundated with these really little bit like sneaky, sleazy plays that don't work so well. So I think that's a good way to look at it. And then before we wrap, let's dive into the alternative page side, because I built these out usually more as like a sales tool with SEO as an afterthought, which was maybe not the best way to do it. It helped our sales team, didn't rank and didn't have that evergreen traffic source. So how do you think through alternative pages and doing them without, them looking bad as if they're you dumping over the competition?
Yeah, it's not an easy one. Like, to be frank, they have to be done carefully. And yeah, those kind of keywords like competitor alternative, competitor pricing, all that kind of stuff can work really well. Quite often low search volume, they'll yield a low amount of traffic, but the traffic they do yield is usually high buying intent, high commercial value. So it can get you some nice demos if you do it right. So what we did, we have a client in the SaaS, they're B2B SaaS, they're basically leadership management software, leadership training software for B2B teams. So what we did with them is we literally made a list of their top competitors. I think we grabbed some from G2, some they gave us. And then we asked our point of contact, in this case, their small marketing teams, they have a marketing director of one, and just asked her to help us with how they're different, like what gets raised on sales conversations typically when they're comparing these options. What do folks say are the reasons they choose you over that competitor? What are they usually struggling with when they come to you? What are some of the impacts of them not fixing that main issue they come to you with? What's some of the value or like the end result they get from working with you? And getting basically a bunch of bullet points around that. So when we build that page, which is traditionally going to be competitor A alternative, and when we position our own product as number one on that listicle, how can we actually share someone that we're not just chatting about how great we are and all these cool features that we have, but we actually understand their world. And we're saying, look, you're probably going through this right now. You might be frustrated with X. You might be frustrated with Y. Here's directly how we can help you resolve it. Here's where we stand out a bit in the market. This is why folks usually choose us opposed to our main competitors. Here maybe is a comparison table. Here's maybe some screenshots or even a live video demo or even a live playable demo of our offer. Let's build as much trust, transparency, and proof within that as possible, and then guide them to take the demo if they're ready, really, and then give a fair comparison of those other options, those other vendors below, because we don't want a legal suite on our ass.
I've gotten those emails before, nice little cease and desist of this is factually incorrect, please remove. So I think we've all been there. I think to bring it full circle, the one interesting thing there just on the competitor pages is pretty much any marketer or every marketer at some point has bid on those terms on Google. Like I've probably spent tens of thousands of dollars or more over the years bidding on those terms. But you're right. If I went to the CFO and said, hey, let's pay 10 grand one time to rank for these keywords, it gets pushed back. So I think you make a really good point at the start of maybe changing that lens of the importance of SEO and getting a little bit of budget towards it. Might be nice and might actually help you.
Yeah, like you're saying, the good thing is, I think a myth with SEO is that it's going to take 6 to 12 months. And
yeah,
the truth is some terms will. And if your website is relatively new or you've not done SEO before, some of those super competitive and generic terms that have got tons of traffic behind them, like best proposal software and that kind of stuff, it's going to be hard. But the more niche and specific you go and more long tail on that keyword, but that's still relevant to what a prospect might search when they need your offer or are comparing you to an alternative, then usually those are less competitive. So if you can nail those first and create best-in-class content and publish that at scale, you're much more likely to see results in timelines like 90 days, 3 months, because a lot of your competitors will just be neglecting that strategy. So if you can take that approach, you can start to see some impact and some leads from it a lot sooner.
Nice. And if any of our listeners are listening to this and thinking, hey, Sam actually knows what he's talking about, I need to talk to this guy and figure out, how should they reach out to you? How should they connect?
Yeah, appreciate it. So there's 3 main ways. One is follow me on LinkedIn, and I'll share tips on SEO and websites most days. Second is to check out the podcast Breaking B2B, where I do solo episodes on this stuff and also interview cool folks just like yourself in the B2B marketing space. Or thirdly, if you're a bit frustrated that your website's not driving a steady flow of inbound and you keep seeing competitors ahead of you on organic search results, then breakingb2b.com. You can check out our work, results, pricing, and book a call.
Awesome. So we'll include those links for our listeners. And Sam, thanks for joining me. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Dustin. Appreciate that.
Thanks for listening to this episode. My key takeaway is around how important high-value content is and how its importance will just continue to increase. So Google's algorithms are getting smarter and smarter. They can recognize AI content. So just by focusing on creating good content, having a solid strategy, and nailing the technical side of SEO, you'll be able to stand out here. Sounds simple, right? If it doesn't, shoot Sam a message. He can help you out. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or comment on the episode on Spotify. And as always, I'll be back next Tuesday with a new episode.